Hey, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining us here today. We're just going to give folks a couple minutes past the top of the hour to trickle on in. But while we're waiting, if folks want to hop into the comments and chime off with what company you're joining from and perhaps where you're located, feel free to. I'll go ahead and get us started. I'm from Assembled, and I'm in Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City. Wow, we have somebody from the Philippines. We're going full international. I love to see it. Seattle and hotel. Oh, I almost said Seattle and hotel engine. That would be a mix. Okay, Seattle and Portland. Awesome. Great to see you guys. Also great to see some friendly faces out there. Hello, everybody. And we're just going to give it till 3 past the hour before we hop on in. But we have a really exciting discussion today all about the different life cycle of cases and how that might impact forecasting needs and other things. So really excited to get into it.
I might be a little partial here. I see some bright sides, and having the last name Bright, it makes me a little happy.
You know, Jess, I have always thought your last name was pretty cool, Bright, but it's just you are pretty bright, so perhaps a little prophetic. Lots of Oregon. Oh, I was just in St. Louis on Monday, Michael. You have a lovely city. Alrighty, well, it is now 3 past the hour, folks, so we're just going to go ahead and hop on in. Before we get started interviewing the lovely Jess, we're just going to do a quick little round of introductions. Hello, everybody. I'm Sam, and I'm Assembled's Product Community Manager, so really excited to get the chance to hang out with all of you guys today. As a little fun fact about my background, I've been in the support ops space for a long time myself, most recently as the workforce manager at Imperfect Foods before I joined Assembled a few years back. So that's a little bit about me and my background. I love to talk shop, which is why I'm here. And with that, I'll kick the ball over to our star, Jessica, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I am Jessica Bright. I am a customer support manager in a customer success department at Autodesk. Autodesk, if you don't know anything about it, we are a 40-plus-year-old software company that's dedicated to like design and make software. So we have everything from designing blueprints to automotive manufacturing to animation to construction. So anything that fits within the realm of design and make. The team that I work for in customer success focuses on our software for construction.
Awesome. Well, with a spread like that, I'm sure there's quite a lot of complexity to dive into from the support side. So I'd love to hear more about how your org is set up and any complexities there.
Yeah, so we are a global team. We have hubs in America, in APAC, in EMEA. We are a 2-tier operational team. So we have a frontline team, a tier 2 team, and we have an operational team. Our operational team is dedicated to, the systems that we use, our help articles, our internal articles, all the data and everything around that. We currently support chat, email, and outbound phone. We have a wide range of KPIs that we measure. So chat average wait time, CSAT, initial response rate, adherence, volume and productivity and quality. And then one big thing about the team that I work for is we came through multiple acquisitions. So back in 2019, Autodesk acquired a couple different construction tech companies, put us all together to, have a best-in-class of product suite for construction. But with that, you're jamming a bunch of people that have a bunch of different KPIs together and different standards of service. So with that, we had to figure out, well, what is the standard of service that we want to give our customers? So, one thing that we did is like chat. We had to launch chat across all of our products. We had to define SLAs and do all that hard work that, one product might not have had, but now they have it. So trying to figure out all those different complexities and scheduling around that. But generally, that is how our organization is set up now, is multiple different products, all focused on construction and the success of our customers.
Wow, that is quite a lot of complexity. And I'm sure with so many different regions and products and tiers to manage, that can be definitely a challenge that you've cut out for you. Awesome. Well, thank you for running us through a little bit about that. So, with all of that in mind, I'm curious, what are some kind of trends you've noticed emerging in your support operations?
Yeah, so being that we are in construction tech, with construction, time is literal money. So, you could have somebody who's using a device out in the field, and if they're working on outdated work, then essentially they're building on something that has already changed, and then they have to rebuild it. And then that is more money that they have to pour in, and that is more time that is lost for them. So, with construction, especially, we are very tuned into having that quick, effective solution. Because if I am, a foreman out in the field and I'm working off an iPad, like it's very hard for me to get the level of service that I need to get that question quickly answered, right? So we really leaned into having that live support, i.e., chat support or outbound phone, whatever works best for the customer in that area. And with that, comes like, well, how fast can we be to help this customer? How effective are we being? So that is one trend that we are noticing within our support operations itself. The other is, there's this big heavy focus on AI is everywhere, and it's the new trend that is coming out amongst, every company is really focused on it. But with Autodesk, like, AI is not new for us, right? So support bots are the way of the future. People want to be able to ask a question, get their answer served really quickly. So now we're focusing on, well, what types of conversations are better served for that support bot versus what types of conversations do we know that need a person in order to handle? Like if they have a very complex workflow, like that bot's not going to cut it. So they need to come to support. So how can we, tailor their experience to hit a support agent faster so we can get them that resolution that they need, and they're quick and they're out the door. Back to, building what they need to be doing.
Absolutely. I think it's really awesome, all the different ways you're trying to tailor the business around making sure they have the right answer as fast as possible, and thinking a lot, it sounds like very intensely about what's going to be the best way to get that to them the fastest. Because, in that world, like, you might need an answer right now. And sometimes a bot may actually be the better customer experience. And I think a lot of the times we tend to be a bit biased that, direct to support is the fastest way, but a lot of the time a bot may actually be a faster answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. So continuing on from here, what specific challenges have you encountered with that omni-channel support model, and how have these impacted your staffing models?
Yeah, so we've been using Salesforce for a while now, and I love Omni-Channel as a way to have somebody who's sitting there accepting tickets, accepting chats. They're just getting what is ever divvied to them, right? So they could be getting a chat, they could be getting a ticket, depending on what status they're in, right? So it's a very effective way that you're not having somebody, for example, cherry picking cases. So they're just getting whatever's assigned to them. But with Omni-Channel, right? It's a little difficult and it's complex that, we are a global company and we are staffing for 24-hour support, right? And we have chat 24 hours, Monday through Friday. And with that, not only that, but our products are complex, and there's so many different products, and we have all these agents that have all this knowledge and they have to learn more than one product. And so with that comes with the complexity of, well, I have to staff for Omni-Channel. I have to staff to make sure that we're covered for chat. I need to do it per product suite because I can't just staff per product. That's very difficult to do. It's one of the things that we ran into when we formed our acquire team a long time ago. And so with that, just, the regular way of the staffing formula wasn't working for us. And we had all these complexities of how do you staff for multi-product support? How can you staff for 3 different products at a time that have different response rates and different, SLAs? So we really had to level the playing field of saying, all right, well, here's the service that we want to give. Here's the way that these products kind of fit together with all these puzzle pieces, and then figuring out the staffing based on that. So like I said, Omni-Channel is a good way to get reps to get serviced in what they need really quickly, right? And then, like I said, self-serving, getting them out the door, but at the same time, like on the back end, it's really hard to staff for that with all those puzzle pieces of all these different products.
Completely makes sense. And for the folks listening at home, I'm sure everyone's pretty familiar. Like the more queues you have, the more products you have, the more layers of different people that might touch a ticket you have, the harder this math is. And it really is kind of a math problem to solve. Awesome.
For sure.
So, when did you realize that it was time to upgrade your forecasting model to account for those complexities? And were there any key indicators that really prompted that change for you guys or that need?
Yeah, so construction is very much a seasonal business. So we have a suite of products that will be busy in the wintertime because somebody's in a trailer, they're bidding on projects. And then you have the other side of it where people are building actual buildings. So they will be out in the field, like I said, foreman with his iPad. And so because the different products ebb and flow within the different phases of construction, what we found was is the regular staffing models didn't help us with our seasonality of our business. So if you're looking back 8 weeks in the springtime for your winter products, like we might be overstaffing or might be calculated to overstaff with those products, knowing that, well, they are going to start trending down. And like the 8 weeks hasn't caught up with us yet. So one of the things we did was we partnered with Assemble to figure out, well, how can we switch up the way that we're forecasting to add in that seasonality of the business, which is when the seasonality forecasting model came out, right? And it's not just seasonality of construction, it's also being a support business. You can't just shut down on July 4th, or Labor Day or Memorial Day. Like you need to be able to staff, like building doesn't stop, right? You might have some holidays where it dips in volume, but there's still people working. And because we are a global business, not all holidays are treated the same, right? So like we might be celebrating the 4th of July in America, but over in APAC, for example, or in Sydney where we have a hub, like they're working. So we needed to staff for the seasons, right? And with that seasonality model, like it also incorporated the seasonality of, staffing for the different holidays, right? So that also helped us improve the way that we were supporting our customers and supporting our business, is because now we had a staffing model that was like flowing with us and understanding when, okay, well, now this product is winding down. So we need to up the people on this product and making sure that we have this covered here, which was really nice for us to have. And it's not something we've ever had before.
Completely makes sense to me. And I know our whole team is super grateful to the Autodesk crew for partnering with us to help make our models better, both with the seasonality and some of the case lifecycle stuff we'll be getting into momentarily. And speaking of, one moment here. How has focusing on the entire case lifecycle from the initial contact to resolution point improved your support operations within Service Cloud?
Yeah, so one thing that really resonated with me is when Autodesk came and proposed to me that they were working on this case lifecycle is, we've always wanted Assemble to be a single source of truth for us. And the way that the integration was working with Service Cloud wasn't as effective as it could be, right? So like there was information inside of there missing when it came to the volumes that we were seeing per agent, right? Like their productivity versus what we were being shown in Service Cloud, right? Or Salesforce. And so with case lifecycle, the integration got better to now it was accommodating for work that was happening outside of Omni-Channel, right? So like I said, Omni-Channel is great. It divvies out work, but it doesn't deal with the complexities of, well, we have a tier 2 team and we're escalating cases to the tier 2 team. And that's kind of getting lost in how we're forecasting or, accommodating for how much volume somebody is actually doing, right? Because if they're transferring, 13% of their cases away, that wasn't being tracked in how many cases they were actually doing. So we're missing that puzzle piece of productivity. So with that case lifecycle, we less have to ping pong back and forth between Salesforce and Assemble to actually see what is going on in terms of like how productive somebody's actually being, right? So not only do that, but we do have like these different data points that we can start looking at. So you have, your unique cases solved. You have how many cases are being transferred or escalated. You have, the units of work, which is something we had never really, we thought about units of work, but not to the degree that Audit or Assembled was thinking about it, which I appreciated. So now that we have all these data points, it starts painting a picture of how well and how productive we're being as a support team. And then what you can start doing is you can start slicing and dicing of saying, well, this product suite tends to be productive at this rate, and this product suite tends to be productive at this rate. So it starts going into our staffing calculations and updating our configurations to be more accurate when it comes around to like seeing the whole picture, which is something we didn't have before.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess just to add a little bit more color for the folks at home that may be a bit less familiar with Assembled. So back in the day before this launch that we're all super excited about, especially the folks at Autodesk and us, because of course it's a pretty big one. Back in the day, we used to only be able to see each ticket as essentially one unit of work. So if a ticket came in for one queue and then it ended up in another queue, we'd be kind of locked in to contributing that ticket to one forecast or another instead of the reality of that, which might be, it gets 6 responses in tier 1, 4 responses in tier 2. As a lot of folks know here, especially with complex product suites, that's super common that you may have one agent working with it for a period, another agent working with it for another period. Maybe they even throw you a huge curveball and they're asking you about one product, and then suddenly they reopen and say, oh, hey, wait, well, I'm here. Can you tell me about this other thing? And all of that complexity can be really difficult to track, not just in, prior versions of Assembled, but also with a lot of other manual models out there or a lot of other tools out there. So we were really excited as a team to work with Autodesk to start thinking about things like units of work, as Jess mentioned, for how do we capture kind of the complete journey of a ticket and not just where it started or where it ended up, but how do we really get down to the brass tacks of making this math work as good as it can. So really excited that we've had the chance to pair with Jess and the team to make sure that this is working great for Autodesk and, soon to be many other folks out there that are interested in the model. So really excited to get into the weeds there. But turning the page once again, now that we've kind of added a little color, would you mind giving an example of a situation where understanding the case lifecycle made a significant difference in your business processes?
Yeah, so when it comes to like case lifecycle, for us, one of the things that we tend to do is we hire in classes, right? So we tend to hire 3 to 8 people. They might all start at once, right? Which it's a great experience for those new hires because they have buddies to help them learn together. So with case lifecycle, as I mentioned before, there's various different data points that that are shown to us. So we're able to see, per product suite that we're trying to, forecast against, like where are there gaps that we need to staff on? So if we know we have 4 new hires coming in, well, where do we need to plug them and into what products do they need to learn first, for example, right? So not only is case lifecycle helping us be more accurate in staffing, but it's also helping us see gaps that we didn't quite see before because we weren't able to see that full journey. Like we didn't have the visibility from start to finish. We only had the visibility of, well, here is your new volume in terms of this product suite. Here's your new volume in terms of this product suite. So, in terms of the example, it's just been more accuracy that we're seeing in our in the case lifecycle. And not only that is once we introduce case lifecycle, and what we really focused on this past quarter is how to improve the accuracy of our staffing. So we want to make sure that as our business starts ebbing and flowing, right, different seasonality of construction, that we are staffing as accurately as we can. And insert case lifecycle, insert all these data points that we can start seeing and tracking now. But not only that is because we were able to optimize our schedule, we were able to reduce our average chat wait time from 22 seconds, which it was at the beginning of the year, all the way down to 14 seconds that it was in Q2. So we were able to optimize that staffing, drive that average chat wait time down. And Assembled was one tiny puzzle piece of that. There were other factors that went into it, but it really helped with the accuracy as our staffing is if we're staffing for chat and we're not overstaffing, we're not understaffing, it's like optimized to where it needs to be, then customers are going to get served in a timely manner, right? Like they're going to get the help that they need, that quick, efficient help that I talked about earlier, because time is money, it relates to their business, all of that stuff. And with the complexities of our products, we need, it's a little bit hard to staff for chat, but we are able to kind of find that rhythm that we needed and we were missing before, that I'm appreciative that we have now. Like obviously things can improve and we have all these data points that we can look at now to help us improve, but we've been trending in the right direction.
Awesome. Yeah, great to hear, especially with that handle time improvement on chats. I know in your business, whereas we were talking about time is money, and there's a lot of urgency sometimes when someone does need that live point of contact. It's really great to hear that that has trended in the right direction. Awesome. Well, before we continue on with our interview here, I just wanted to give a quick little housekeeping plug that here shortly we're going to be getting started with the live Q&A portion, where you folks can throw Jess and I into the hot seat with any questions you guys have about this model or anything else you're curious about. We're happy to help. And in order to participate in that, there's a questions button in the bottom right. Feel free to just drop in any questions there as you think of them, and then I will pick out a few questions here at the end for us to dive in on. So be thinking about your questions, dropping them in the tab, and we're going to be excited to answer those here in a few minutes. But anyway, now that I've given my my PSA, continuing on forward here. So what are, oh, wait, excuse me. I lost where I was in my little list here. What are some of the intermediate segments in case movement that you found were often overlooked in traditional forecasting models?
Yeah, so I think we alluded to it a little bit earlier when you were explaining a little bit about Assembled and the forecasting models, but I feel like, especially when to give full transparency here, I don't have a background in workforce management. So everything that I was just the organized person back when I worked for an acquired company of Autodesk that just, plugged and played one product, scheduled on it, was really good at it, and then insert Assembled. I've learned a lot since then, right? So like I've learned what capacity we need, configurations, and all that stuff. So I just wanted to plug that I don't have the traditional background that normally a workforce manager, somebody Sam's level, would normally have when it comes to understanding all this stuff. But I will say that Assembled made it really easy for me to understand and really optimize our staffing and learn what we needed to do to get better and to make our customer experience better in terms of productivity and the level of staffing that we're giving. So I just wanted to give that quick shout out and that quick understanding. But in terms of the segments, is traditional forecasting models were really heavily on new volume. So you have everything integrated. It's showing you how many new tickets you have per hour. You can have all these beautiful heat maps, but what it wasn't taking into consideration was the customer responds to that outbound volume, right? So if you have a new ticket, the customer is going to respond to that. Theoretically, they should, right? But what happens then? So how are we thinking about staffing for the different various degrees of the complexities of our products, the response rate that we're getting from our customers? And then on top of that, how often are these types of cases being transferred over to the escalated tier 2 team, right? So you have all these different complexities that weren't traditionally being put into these staffing models. But now as we've been able to see the full picture here, you have units of work and you're able to tinker your forecasting model based on units of work. So if I have a product that I want to understand how to optimize my staffing on, I can tinker and see that, well, now I can forecast against a unit of work. And so how does that play into making our staffing better, right? Because it's not something that we necessarily have before. And we're thinking about units of work, not just from the customer responding, but the different segments that you have throughout that case movement, right? So for me, support is touch points. It just generally is. You are reaching out to the customer reaches out to us, or you reach out proactively, whichever way it works for you. You respond, the customer responds, you respond back. Maybe you're on the phone, maybe you're, gathering information from your peers, and then you're reaching back out to the customer, and now it's being escalated over here to our tier 2 team, which needs to engage engineering. And so all these different touch points play into that customer experience, and ultimately needs to go into our staffing, because you can't just staff for your new volume, because then you're never going to be staffing to see the full picture. So that is one of the things that we've been looking forward to, and looking at all these data points that we're getting from case lifecycle to help us improve the various different degrees and touch points that you have with your staffing.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for the kind words, Jess. I'll also mention it's been an absolute joy to watch both you and the whole Autodesk team really get in the groove with all things workforce management and continuing to build and build in complexity. It's one of the big joys of my career to get to work with folks like you guys and see, you guys really bloom into a really well-oiled machine. So really excited we've gotten to be a part of that journey. But anyway, continuing on here and turning the page, how did identifying these segments help with optimizing your staffing?
Yeah, so I think we tended to think about these different segments, like the different touch points, as a quality aspect instead of a quantity, right? So we wanted to generally know what is the quality of the escalation that we're sending over? What is the quality of the support that we're giving that customer? And thinking about quality is great, like quality needs to be there, but you also need to think about the quantity of what's happening, right? So if we have a certain product suite that we tend to have a high escalation rate on, well, now we can deep dive in and understand, well, why does this product suite have high escalation rate? Is there something that we're not identifying or enabling our support agents on that they have to escalate that case, right? And it's not always that they're escalating because it's a bug. Maybe they're escalating because they're missing some sort of information in their own training that we can plug, with a boot camp or whatever it may be. So I wanted to dive more into the quantity aspect and help that improve too how we're forecasting against those different product suites. So like I said, if you have one that has a higher escalation rate, that also mean that if they're escalating more cases, they might need more time built into their schedule to send that escalation, right? You have that work-life balance that you want your agent to have. I don't want them sitting around after their hours sending a case over. So I want to make sure that they have the time they need to, have that built into their schedule, knowing that whatever numbers we make up, like on average, they send 2 cases a day. Let's say it takes 10 minutes. Well, now I know how much backlog time they need to get that over the line. And the quicker they get it to our tier 2 team, the quicker that can be resolved for a customer, right? Like ultimately this goes down to the customer experience. So we can get it into their hands quicker. They can do what they need to go get it fixed.
Absolutely. And something I kind of want to read between the lines and highlight in your response there, because I think it's kind of an unsung thing of workforce management that I think we all kind of think about in the background, but we don't always elevate as much as maybe we could, is a big part of what's really wonderful about having these metrics, and especially having these metrics down to that units of work level, is a lot of the time, I think we tend to batch all of this data together a little bit too much and just look at like average handle time across like an org or across a product. But really, if you can take a little bit of a finer tooth comb and see something like, for example, tickets about this subject matter for this kind of product have double the amount of touch points as this other kind of product, like that's not just an opportunity for you to maybe tighten up your workforce management situation. That's actually a great opportunity to take that as feedback back to the business and say, hey, we need more of X, Y, and Z around that thing, be that, training for support agents, AI solutions, or maybe even just making that thing easier to understand for a customer. And I always love to say like a support team, or the best support teams out there anyway, really are kind of the feedback engine for the rest of the company, and being able to build that empirically is everything. So really excited to hear that Case Lifecycle has let you do more of that kind of work as well.
Yeah, and we still need that a little bit more of that time because like we just launched our case lifecycle in June and we've had all these great opportunities to look at those different touch points and those data points to help us improve our staffing. Or, I'm a rep who's on tier one and I can see this full picture so I can see where they need that sort of, feedback or a little bit of enablement from their manager. And, I really do think that with time, like letting the data roll in and letting us see, all those different touch points, all those different rates is only going to make us better as a team in the future.
Absolutely. Well, I guess speaking of the future, that's a really great segue into my next little question here. What future trends or innovations do you foresee in the realm of support operations and omni-channel staffing that you're maybe excited about?
Yeah. There's one thing that we are tending to think about now is, with there being a big focus on AI and having these support bots that serve the customer needs, I don't feel like there's a big as a renewed focus on what the needs of the employee are because the employee success is the success of our customer, right? So if you have somebody who's getting all the information that they need in a timely manner to serve the customer, that's only going to make that customer experience better. So we have this renewed sense of, well, if I'm a rep and let's say I'm day 17 on the job and I learn this product and I need to help this customer, like how do I get help? Right? So I know that this is a light plug for Salesforce here, but they have like a swarming feature that we're really interested in diving into a lot of our resources to understand, where it's like if I'm a rep, I can initiate a swarm and I have somebody who's expertise on that, has expertise on that product who can come in here and help me to the varying degree that I need to get that question solved right there in that conversation versus I got to go back I'm over here in Salesforce. Now I'm over here in Slack. I'm asking this question. I have to wait for somebody to see my question. They have to click in, go see my ticket. Now they're over here. And that takes time, right? And while that does serve the need of the employee, it's just not quick, right? So I keep going back to us being a little bit faster, being more efficient. And so we're hoping that by launching swarming that it'll help us serve our agents faster who are talking to the customers. So like they can get the information, be served, be out the door, right? So that's what we're hoping for with that. And I'm excited to see how it's going to impact our customer experience in the future. We'll see. We're not there yet, but we're getting there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do have to say, I love all the cool whiz bang stuff that the Salesforce folks are doing these days. We here at Assembled are big Salesforce fans. Our support team is actually in the process of transitioning over to Salesforce. Well, of
Wow.
course, we do love a lot of a lot of our other friends and other contact platforms as well. It's just my personal fave. So I love to call it out. And the big reason why is just because of all of the kind of really neat stuff that they're doing, like with Omni-Channel, some of their AI stuff is very cool. So lots of new bells and whistles that I'm always excited to get my eyeballs on. But anyway, with that, one last question for me before we'll turn it over to our wonderful audience here. So folks that have a question ready, be popping it into the chat because I'll be popping on you guys here in a minute. How is Autodesk preparing to stay ahead in this evolving landscape?
It's a really great question. And it's something that, I feel like we've been mulling over at a leadership level, right? So we're making some, internal changes to help our efficiency of our department, right? Like we all want to be better for our customers. So one of the things that we're thinking about is, like I said, with swarming, where's the resources for our internal employees? Where do we want these resources to live? How can somebody get help faster? So I won't rehash what I just said about swarming, but it's definitely something we're thinking about. And like, how can we automate some of the stuff that we're doing? Where does automation play in and to help us drive the efficiency that we need for our employees to help them serve our customers faster? And like what are the data points and how we can collect that data to really understand where we need to like be more granular and drive down for that efficiency. The other thing is that was a really big win for us is with case lifecycle and all the work that we've been doing internally, Assembled was there to help us build out what we needed on the back end to, before we had product A, B, C, D, E, F, G down the line, and you're trying to forecast against all of those products at once. And so we bundled some of these products together based on construction phases. Think of it that way. So like a pre-construction phase or an operation or building phase, right? And so now we're staffing against these construction, like having multi-products together in these different construction phases, that we built it out in our back end that, let's say Autodesk tomorrow acquires a different construction company. It could happen. They acquired some in the past. We can just plug and play and drop them into our assembled instance and instantly have that data there to start seeing some of the trends versus us just, well, what kind of systems do they use? Oh, they have Salesforce. Let's pull all these reports and go do this or that and the other. So now we just have it set up that everything gets dropped in, and then from there, like, it just starts being integrated into assembled. So that is one thing that, we've been preparing for a long time. Of the evolution of us, Autodesk is always going to be that we're going to trend towards, being the record set for our customers, but also as these acquisitions come through or things change, like, we're able to like edit and move stuff around as needed.
Very cool. And one little plug that I would like to give, I guess like a trend that's really exciting me out there in the space. I'm hearing more and more about this idea of what can we do to enable our agents to not just be in the right place at the right time, but also have that right answer. Because so often I think the biggest issue with being an agent, and I know I've been there myself, as I
Same.
imagine a lot of folks in the audience have as well, is sometimes you get a tricky question and it might take you, 3 or 4 internal back and forths with like internal subject matter experts or help desk resources of your own to really be able to make sure you're giving them that right answer. So I think something that's on a lot of folks' minds is how do we not just make the customer experience more efficient from the customer and routing side with AI, but how do we also make that more efficient for the internal agent? And not to like overly give a sales plug, because that's not really my brand. But I am super excited about the Assembled Assist product, especially I know there's some folks out here that have seen it. Really, it's all about just enabling your agents to get that right answer through an AI bot that is an internal facing resource that can, of course, help out with drafting responses and things like that as well. So that's one big, I guess, invention that I'm excited about on the horizon. So if you're curious about case lifecycle, or I guess AI Assist, since I've given this little plug, just let us know. We're always happy to help. But with that, now that I have successfully added that little plug in, we do have questions from our audience here. So I'll go ahead and just start answering a couple. And one is from our familiar friend, Carolyn. Carolyn is also over at Autodesk, folks. So I'm very familiar with Jess and I. Carolyn asks, essentially, with our transition internally to Salesforce, can we expect more Salesforce-related features in the future? And just, I guess, a little kind of spoiler alert, I'd say generally, yes. We are very excited to continue to invest in our partnership with Salesforce, especially as we're moving in that direction internally as well. I don't have anything super specific to share on this front, but can definitely say Salesforce improvements are definitely super top of mind for us. One very recent launch that I'm actually super excited about that Salesforce folks may or may not have seen yet, we actually now have an app on the Salesforce App Exchange that if you have it downloaded, agents can now actually access their assembled schedule directly in Salesforce instead of having to open. So that's a new one that we're super, super excited about, kind of a first taste of some of the continued roadmap to come there, but really excited to keep investing in Salesforce features. So yeah, feel free to continue to send feedback our way about Salesforce things you want to see or anything else you want to see in Assembled. As everyone here knows, we're always all ears for feedback. And sometimes it leads to really cool stuff like this case lifecycle and seasonality and all this neat new improvement. Benjamin Fuller asks, any thoughts on a potential Outlook integration or solutions for teams that do not use Google? Oh, wait, I can actually click this. Sorry, I just realized I didn't have it displayed. We had some team members use a series of Google Calendar imports from Google, then Outlook, which we're experimenting with. So this is actually a little bit spoiler alert, but we actually have very recently, in the last couple of weeks, figured out a way to connect into Outlook. So if this is something that you're curious about, again, we're kind of still like getting the word out there to folks. So if you're probably hearing it here first, folks. But if it's something you're curious about, feel free to reach out to support, and we're happy to walk you through some of the workarounds we figured out to get Outlook calendar events inside of Assembled. It's certainly something that is possible. So feel free to reach out to support@assembledhq.com if you're curious about getting up and running there, and we will be in touch. How does your unit, I keep forgetting to click on the question so everyone else. How does your unit of work forecasting and headcount planning relate to units of work in your performance management? Are they the same metric? So I would say these are very closely related to each other. Essentially, with our new lifecycle model, we're able to account for units of work from both a forecasting and performance management perspective, which is really exciting. I remember when it was me way back in the day managing Assembled for my team at Imperfect. One of the things I always had in the back of my mind was, well, we don't always measure performance in terms of solves. Sometimes we measure it in terms of touches. Jess, I actually believe you said the bumper sticker throw pillow quote that I love, which is support is touch points. For a lot of teams, that's very true. So we're really excited to be able to report on performance in more of a kind of unit by unit way and not just a kind of holistic solve way. Though, of course, holistic solves are super important. We love that metric too. But excited to be able to back into it a little more from both a performance and a forecasting perspective. But Jess, I know you've been actually using Case Lifecycle for a bit, and I'm kind of just seeing it from the outside. So I'd love to hear if you have any thoughts or input on this one.
Yeah, so I think that to what Sam said is true. Like, I think that they're very similarly related, but you're just using the data in a different way. So if I'm looking at the units of work per rep, it's helping me understand, like, for example, let's say this rep did 50 cases, but they had 150 units of work. Well, that is something that I'd be interested to dive into and kind of analyze and see the reason why, And then when you think of units of work for forecasting, you're looking at the different touch points throughout that, case life cycle per product suite for in our case to see, well, on average, this product has X amount of touch points related to it. So that is something that we need to include and think about when we're staffing to try to optimize that efficiency with the staffing, right? So I think that they are similar, but I think that looking at it from the agent perspective is more granular because you're going to want to see it's a puzzle piece in the picture, right? So you're able to see how productive they're being based on when having all that information stacked side by side versus you're kind of using a conglomerate of all that data to increase your staffing efficiency.
Excellent and very, very true. Alrighty. Well, that's actually so far the last question that we have from folks that has been submitted. I'm going to give people a couple minutes to submit anything else top of mind. We are eager to answer any of your questions. So if there's anything else that you guys would like to know about any of the features we've talked about today, Salesforce and Assembled Together, Case Lifecycle, the lovely Jess, or I suppose the lovely Sam, feel free to ask in the questions and we will answer happily. I'll go ahead and give folks a couple minutes until probably let's say 46. And if we haven't gotten any new questions by then, we'll give everybody 14 minutes back. I suppose while we're waiting, I'll also kind of just continue along the track with some things I've thought about with this case lifecycle and AI and all these trends that are out there. But something I've noticed as a big emerging trend is we're seeing a lot of folks are increasingly having hybrid models between vendored out staff and folks that are internal. Probably pretty familiar for folks here. We see a lot of people that work with outsourced vendors and internal people at the same time. And I think that that's another really cool thing about both Case Lifecycle and some of the AI technologies that are coming out is with Case Lifecycle, you can also get a much more granular picture at who's handling what kind of volume and maybe what would be better served by an outsourced vendor or an internal team. So that's something else I'm super excited about. And obviously with like AI improvements too, a lot of the times the folks that need that kind of assistance the most might be your outsourced vendors that might be just getting started learning some of your feature set. And features like AI and Case Lifecycle can be really helpful for figuring out that complexity. I know I'm kind of just taking advantage of the soapbox here while I have it.
By all means.
Might as well. Oh, we have another one. Speaking of AI, what kind of functionality is Assembled looking at for the future? Ooh, one of my favorite questions. So right now we have a new product that is Assembled Assist, and we do have a full demo of it on our website if you're curious. But basically with Assembled Assist, it does several things. It plugs into your help desk and acts as a resource for your agents to basically be able to ask an AI bot of their own questions about how their products work or information from the help desk to really enable them for success. Like I can tell you, I hop on client calls sometimes, especially, I actually think I have a few folks in the chat here that have spoken to me before. And every once in a while, even I get stumped and I might need to ask my little handy Assembled Assist bot, like, hey, what's the difference between adherence and conformance? Not really, I know that. But things like that can be ticky-tacky details that agents can sometimes get lost on. It's really helpful for that. And it will also help with auto drafting responses that follow your guys' style and brand guides, as well as provide correct information. So we're pretty excited about the assist side of things these days. We are also thinking about how we can include AI inside of our workforce management product for smarter forecasting, as well as smarter like automated scheduling. Though transparently, it's a little bit kind of more for lack of a better word, kind of more complexity there and a bit earlier on in our roadmap. So not as many details to share, but I suppose just know that that's generally on our mind. But I love to say AI is kind of the buzzword of the year. And Omni-Channel might be the secondary buzzword of the year. Those are the two big ones I hear a lot about. And we're definitely keeping that top of mind internally. Thank you, Spencer. All right, well, with that, I'll go ahead and turn us loose with 12 minutes back. Thank you guys so much for dropping in to learn more about the latest and greatest, as well as Jess's experience. Thank you so much, Jess, for joining us. I'm sure everyone else is clapping along at home, but I'll start the round of applause here. But thank you so much again. And yeah, thank you, audience, for joining us. Feel free to reach out to support@assembledhq.com if you have any questions about any of the features we've chatted about today. Or of course, your CSM or account rep is also always happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam.
Of course. Bye, guys.